So working on getting the sway bar buttoned up. Because of the truss or the back brace on the axle, all I ended up doing is drilling a hole kind of close to where the axle tubes come together because you don't have a lot of room with the breather and everything. But drilled a hole on both sides, started with a small bit, then just went up to the step bit, dropped the U-bolt in there, and then I took the mount and shaved one side of it so it can sit up underneath. Do the other side quick, and then I'll hopefully test fit it, and it will fit wonderfully, and then I can get stuff painted and bolted together. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the rear end buttoned up in terms of axles and brakes. So because it's got the Crown Vic swap in the front, I went to a 5-on-4.5 bolt pattern in the back. Also took the opportunity to upgrade the axles so they're chrome moly shafts from Quick Performance. And then I also ordered a Wilwood disc brake kit through them. So with this sitting in here, you can see there's this groove in the Wilwood brake bracket that sits over that, but the actual seal is still proud of the rear end, about 1/8 of an inch. And I called Quick this morning. They said just tighten it down. That seal's designed to expand as it goes in. There's a rubber portion, and that'll tighten up just fine. So this is the disc brake bracket. Caliper goes towards the back of the vehicle. And then you have to put this bracket on before you put the axle in all the way. It doesn't fit in this space here, so. This is the Wilwood disc brake kit for the big bearing Ford 9-inch. This is a 9-inch out of F150. If you're looking to do this, just call Quick Performance, tell them what you're doing. They'll make sure you get the right stuff. This is the caliper bracket. Then we got calipers, the disc brake, or the rotor hat, which is the center of the rotor, and then the rotors themselves, and some mounting hardware. Well, you win some, you lose some. The whole reason I started this process is because I'm trying to get the garage a little more organized, get some stuff put away. I was like, well, this will be quick. I'll just throw these on quick. It's not quick. It's not too bad to do. Basically, you've got your rotor mounted to your hub here. You got to pay attention because you could put it on backwards. Anyways, my spacing seems to be off for my caliper. So here's my rotor sitting on there like that. And I measure about 7/8 of an inch as the spacer on the plate. Yep. So this about 7/8 of an inch right here. And that doesn't, I can't even get my caliper mounted. It seems to me like the rotor needs to go back towards the mount more, or the mount needs shallower spacers, like maybe a 1/2 inch spacer. So that's where I'm sitting. I called Quick. Their brake specialist was busy, so they're gonna call me back. But that's why I buy stuff from them. They answer their phone, they talk you through it. They're, worst case scenario, I'll send them a couple pictures. They'll tell me I need different spacers, and they'll send me different spacers. So I'm not worried about it. Just sucks I can't get it buttoned up right now, but like I said, win some, you lose some. So I've already removed the stock shaft. It's on the left here. You can see that the race is missing from the bearing. The race is still in the housing right here. So we're gonna pop this out quick, and then we can install our new axle shaft. When we install a new shaft, we wanna make sure that the bearing gets seated all the way. And then you'll notice the new shaft doesn't have this bearing retainer on it. And that is because the Wilwood brake kit has their own retainer. However, if you are just reinstalling this shaft and reinstalling your drum brake setup, you would have to make sure you got a retaining plate on before the bearing. So go ahead and slide this in, and then we'll go through the disc brake setup. And you can see on see how this factory shaft is tapered. This is a factory 31 spline truck shaft. But you can see no taper, and then longer splines on this one, so if it was too long, you could cut it back shorter. First thing we need to do is pop this race out of here. Just want to inspect the inside surface, make sure that that race area is not marred up. Make sure nothing that's going to keep your new axle from seating all the way. And actually that one went in really nice. You could hear it seat nice and solidly. But I just remembered we gotta put that retaining plate on first, so I'm gonna have to pull this back out a little bit. And this one's nice and loose. The other side was a lot stiffer, a lot harder to take in and out. So here it is, the retaining plate and what mounts your disc brake caliper. So it's recessed on one side. That recess is going to go towards the inside, and then you want to make sure that your caliper is mounted towards the rear of the vehicle. For some reason I'm getting some interference on this side. Okay, so push it in again, make sure it seats. And then actually the seal that's on your axle, in my scenario, the seal is sticking out. It's not totally flush. And part of that's going to go in that recess, but part of it is also going to get pushed in and expand as you tighten up this retaining collar. I don't know why, but I'm just... The brake caliper mount is not clearing my housing. It is the right pattern because the holes line up. Okay, so I went ahead and pulled the caliper mounting piece off the back here, and that way I could get my plate to fit. It was just kissing right here, and I could have just ground this off, but I think it'll clear now. But you can see there's a little bit of space there, about 1/8 of an inch, and I called Quick to verify. That's how it's supposed to be. Just tighten it up and that seal will expand and depress. When it's done, this should be tight to the backing plate on the rear axle. So go ahead and put our nuts on here, torque those down, and then I'm going to remount the caliper mounting bracket. Okay, so this is tightened up. You can see no gap. And then give it a spin, make sure it's loose, the bearings feel good. I re-put on the caliper mounting bracket. Now, if you end up taking this off, a couple things to note. You can see there's a wide flange on this, and that's basically an nut insert. So you want to make sure that the flanged part is opposite the head of the bolt. So when you tighten this bolt, it's pulling on that flange. When I first put on the driver's side, these spacers were wrong, so I had to swap out these spacers and the bolts. Ideally, this should be just like it is, just protruding a tiny bit or flush. Same thing when you put on the calipers. So when you go to mount your calipers, can't come with a whole bunch of these thin washers, and that's going to do two things for you. You put your caliper on, they're going to be shims to put between the caliper and the mounting bracket to center the rotor in the caliper. You can see mine's got to go, that's dang close, maybe. The other side I did one washer to the inside, so I spaced it one washer in. And then you also need to use the washers to set the depth of the mounting bolt. So that mounting bolt is going to go from the back through the caliper into this bracket, and you want to make sure it's not going to stick out and hit the rotor. So if you need to shorten that mounting bolt, you put washers on the head of the bolt like this to make sure that bolt's not protruding through too far. So I've got the caliper mounted. You can see I put one washer here, and my bolt is about the perfect length. Just barely protruding through the mounting bracket. But when we look at the rotor and the caliper, try to get this straight as possible, you can see that the caliper could actually go inward a little more to be perfectly centered. So I'm going to take it back off, flip that washer, so I'll now have two washers between the caliper and the mounting bracket. And you want to make sure whatever you do on the top, you do on the bottom so they're even. Otherwise your caliper will be, crooked to your rotor. And then obviously I don't have the brake pads in here. You have to install the brake pads before you install the caliper on the rotor, but I have to take this back apart because I don't have safety wire. So I'll need to safety wire these rotor hat bolts as well as the caliper mounting bolts. So I'm just getting this all mocked up so I can get tires on it for right now. All right, so I put two washers now between the caliper and the mounting bracket, 0 on the backside. Well, the one, no spacer washers. And you can see it's much more centered now. So finally, after just about 2 months, like 6 weeks, we're ready to put tires on it for the first time. The front's all buttoned up. Pretty much everything's torqued, short of the stuff that's got to get torqued under load. The back, I'll have to take the brakes back apart, but we're gonna go ahead and set it down so I can get it on dollies and get it out of the way so I can start doing some body work. Hopefully get the cab put back on it pretty soon. So throw these wheels on, and yeah, I'm pretty stoked. This is my excited voice, so let's get it done. There she sits. Pretty wild. These are 17-inch wheels, which are the only things I had that I thought would clear the brake calipers. But on the front, the offset isn't enough, so it's actually rubbing on the face of the caliper, not on the radius of it. But it's on the ground. I can clean up the garage. I can rearrange a bunch of stuff, and I can get the bottom of this cab prepped the rest of the way and painted, and then get the cab back on the frame and finish up bodywork, get it all painted. Hopefully that process goes quicker than the chassis build, because supposed to go on power tour in like a month, and I don't know what I'm doing for a drivetrain, and I've got to finish a lot of stuff. Yeah, good talk.